Emma, thank you so much for joining. Where I want to start is broadly your creative process. What inspires you? What motivates you? What you think about first when presented with an idea?
Um, for me, research is super important.
Yeah.
I need to know what I'm doing, so I usually spend most of the time trying to figure out what kind of problem to solve. And sometimes it's not the same problem as the client presents you. It can be something completely different, and it goes back to the audience and who they want to reach. So I'm always trying to find something that the audience is struggling with or something that they're already doing that you can help them with. Basically something that would make them happy. And when you find that thing, you can start thinking about how you can manifest it and how you can communicate it so they understand that you can help them with that. And
Yeah.
that kind of insight is always key to me. I need that, and sometimes you find many different ones, but it kind of starts there, and then everything else comes after.
Well, I think there's a quiet confidence, right, that you're displaying in being able to say, okay, the client is presenting us with X. We might, have a slightly divergent or better idea about how to reach that audience. So, talk to me a little bit about, doing the research and then pitching. Hey, but what if we did this?
Yeah, I think like I can talk about Inkbox because that's something that you are
Yeah.
familiar with. And they came to us and they said that they really wanted to grow. They wanted to, I can't remember now if they wanted to double their sales or they just wanted to reach out to more people.
Hmm.
So young people were the main audience for them, but it could also just be anyone. And um, before we started working with them, people mostly use them. They're selling temporary tattoos.
Yeah.
So for everybody who doesn't know that, that's what they're doing. And before we started working with them, people mostly use them uh, as tryouts before
Hmm.
you wanted to get a real one.
Hmm.
Which is of course fantastic because that way you kind of know how it feels to have a tattoo and you can picture yourself with it. You can even try on different motives. Uh, but thinking about reaching out to more people, we wanted to see if you instead could use it almost as a fashion accessory. So, like just thinking about it as clothing or a new hairstyle or even nail art or jewelry,
Hmm.
makeup. Since it's temporary, it doesn't stay with you, and you can try out so many different things. And that's something that you do that when you're young. You're trying out different styles to find out who you are, and to be able to do that and express yourself and your identity with tattoos was something that we found quite astonishing. So that was kind of what we wanted to, that was the story we wanted to tell, that we can help you with that. We can help you try on different identities, and
Hmm.
it can be a little bit fluid, and somehow that's going to make you more confident, and eventually it's going to make you find out who you are and who you
That's
want
how
to
you
be.
have big ink energy, right?
Yeah, and you can, I
Yeah.
mean, you can also like, identity changes,
Yeah.
so even if you feel that you're goth one day, you might be something completely different the other day, and that's really cool and interesting. So that was all, how it all started, how we came up with big energy.
Well, and expanding the use case for them, right? So you're going on vacation, you're going to a festival, you're doing something that is,
Exactly.
a minute amount of time, but something that you want to try on a different experience or different look for. That's perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
and
that
it
would.
was just fun and joyful, like just
Well,
playing.
those are the best campaigns, right? The ones that are fun and joyful.
Yeah.
Do you find like, I mean, that obviously doesn't apply for everything, but do you find that you have an inclination to go in that space if allowed?
um what do you mean with space?
Oh, fun and joyful rather than
um
dark and ominous.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, I think it all depends on what you're trying to say and who you're trying to reach. I
Yeah.
don't think that you should shy away from being serious if it's absolutely necessary. But usually, if you think about, I like to think about brands as people, and if you think about what people you like to hang out with, usually you really enjoy hanging out with people who makes you feel good,
Yeah.
and with the people who makes you laugh, and also who makes you feel special in some way. And I think that brands can learn a lot from that.
So beyond research and once you get past that point, when you get into implementation, do you have kind of specific ideas in mind, a specific kind of goal set or process that you go into?
It's different. Like now, I'm mostly managing other creatives, so I'm not doing as much work now as I used to do. I still do it sometimes. So it's we like to say that you're both at Forsman and Bodenfors. You're both a player and a coach. So sometimes it's up to me to also actually create, and other times it's up to me to make other people create and do something amazing. So I guess it's different, but I think you start exploring in the same way as you start exploring what is
Yeah.
important for the audience. You also start exploring that visually, and also with tone and language, and then you also dig inside. Like a lot of creativity comes from what you have inside you already. And you use everything that you learned so far, and you use everything that you learn from other people, and like people you know, or just people that you watch and be inspired by. And then when you do that, you find something that you feel is working. And I mean, usually I'm an art director from the beginning. I do a lot of mood boards. Sometimes I go back to old magazines and books, and I photograph or scan and get it into the computer. Otherwise, I use different tools as Pinterest, or just anything online,
Yeah.
basically. And then you start putting different things together. I always find it interesting to pair up things that are not supposed to be together, or at least something that you would never imagine those two things together. But then when you match them up, you create something that feels new, fresh, and interesting. And it's also a way to do something that looks a little bit different than everything else that you can see at the time.
Oh, absolutely. As a player coach myself, I started to I internalized that immediately. It was like it was tough for me at first to kind of fight the urge to jump back in. How has it been for you? Have you have you seamlessly done that, or has it been kind of tough to
It's
fight
still
the urge to be like,
challenging. I
but
have to
wait, what if
say,
we did this?
sometimes I want to create myself so badly. I can't help myself. I just dive in, and I also like I make sketches, and I make mood boards, and I find references, and I really enjoy that part. Otherwise, other times I manage to kind of stay the coach, and just give them a couple of different tips and tricks. And some of my creatives are they absolutely don't need any help. They're brilliant themselves. So
Yeah,
it's like I never feel that I have to do it. It's more that I
yeah,
want to do it because I enjoy it, and it's also collaborative. And sometimes I don't even think that it always has to do with experience. Sometimes it's just different minds coming together, and anyone can come with something that contributes to the creative process that can be the thing that you're actually using eventually. So it's all collaboration, and usually when you have many creative minds working together, you find something even more interesting. So it's not because I feel that I have to help or control. It's more just because I really like it and I enjoy it. So
yeah. It's hard to resist that impulse, right? But I think and you hit it like the purpose is if it is collaborative, if a person's like, cool, this is input, but not like mandatory, that is, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
And just expressing that from the get, it's just saying, okay, and I try and express this to people when I'm working with them too. I'm like, my mind fires way too fast and I'm going to throw things at you, but you can just take them or leave them. I don't care, because in 5 minutes later, I'll be on to the next idea already. So I'll forget about it.
I can relate to that.
I hope a lot of people on this podcast can relate to that. I think that's probably one of the common threads of people in the Shorty Wars audience, is that, we're focused, but we're also not. And we can kind of be pulled and pushed into different things. So I have especially, and I think this isn't a direct correlation, but I think also when we're in the attention economy, that we have to be mindful of, like, clients will come and say, well, we got to get people's attention. I'm like, well, attention is fleeting. So, you'll get it for 5 minutes and then you'll have to do something else again. But I think there's actually a little like hidden gem in that, is that you can try and test things and you don't have to play things safe. I don't know if you've noticed any changes in the last 5 years in content because of attention span, if it informs your thought process at all.
The attention span, or like the length, or sorry, can you repeat back?
Yeah, no, just in general, if people's attention spans are smaller, if it's harder to keep people's attention with a campaign, then does that make you take more chances because the kind of like benign stuff isn't going to get noticed? Does it make you, try different things?
Unfortunately, like I wish that made us more able to experiment more, but I feel that unfortunately it's almost the other way around. Formats are shrinking. We mostly do, we do a lot of TV and video for social, and less so content. So we've been going from creating, when talking long form, it was usually 60 seconds, and then it was 45, and then it was 40. And then now we talk about a 30-second as a long form. But for most of the time, we're just creating 15s or even 6-second videos. And you have to be super fast to be able to make a connection when you're doing something that short. And sometimes you instead do many, and together they tell a story. But it's definitely like the time you have to tell that story and make that connection is becoming shorter and shorter. And I think, of course, it's important to do something that grabs people's attention immediately. But then again, if you do something that really moves you, a longer format can be as good. You can make something that's 30 minutes and people will watch it if it's incredible and if you can get their attention in some way. So length is very, it's hard to say what's actually right. It all depends on the idea.
It's absolutely, it's absolutely dictated by the idea. It's kind of strange and hilarious to think that 15 seconds could even be considered long form at this point, but very on brand with our name, so I like it. But that dictates how you're going to tell a story, right? If you have 15 seconds, it's going to dictate your dialogue. It's going to dictate how you set up the scene. It's going to dictate your cuts. It's going to make sure that you have to really spend those first 3 seconds establishing what the entire space is, and then hopefully giving yourself enough time to land the plane. But you were right. I'll watch an hour and 40-minute documentary if I'm pulled by it. I'll watch a 6-second short if I'm pulled by it. Both things, can work, but in creative, usually we're not being asked to do documentaries. But
no, that's very that's very uncommon. I definitely suggested that format many times, like a longer format, but it's very rare that you're able to sell it in. But something that I find interesting is when you divide things up into bite-sized chunks, shorter formats, you can actually you can together you can create many of those, and in that way you can get people's attention, and you can find them sitting and watching something that you want to tell them for a very
Yeah.
long time. Even if you like, if you would do that, if you, let's say that you would create something that is 1 minute long from the beginning, nobody would have the energy to stay. But if you divide it up into 4:15s, or
Mm-hmm.
like even shorter formats, all of a sudden it's okay, because they can leave anytime, or they feel that they can leave
Yep.
anytime, and then you kind of you can get them hooked that way. But yeah, it's all in the message, and it's all in the execution.
I hit the Marcus clip button, and I don't normally hit it, but it's like the thing that struck me there is, as the audience, if you think you can leave, to me that is very spot on and very important, right? If you feel stuck, there's such a difference between a mandatory 30-second pre-roll, right, and you viewing things in 15-second chunks, and then all of a sudden going, have I been on YouTube for an hour and a half? Have I been on TikTok for 2 hours? What am I doing? Also, why am I on Zillow? I already own a house. What am I doing with my life? Those are the kinds of things that, if you can pull people in. So it's really more so just not overwhelming the
Yeah.
audience from the input. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense to me.
I think that's both the beauty and the curse of TikTok, for instance, that
Yeah.
like you can just be on forever, because there's always another thing, and there's always, like, everything is quite short, and um, eventually you just spend so much time. But like, I love it in many ways, but sometimes I also feel very empty when I'm finished, and I feel that I wasted that time, which is not true, because I learn a lot, and
Sure.
it's entertaining. But I think it's just the way we use it, because we always have it in our pocket, so it's always available to us, and that makes it maybe a little bit unhealthy sometimes. Also saying that because I have teenagers, so I see what it's doing to them.
I always have to explain that I'm doing in air quotes research whenever I'm on one of those platforms to myself. It's like the lie I tell myself. I'm like, no, I'm just being entertained, and I have now watched 45 straight skiing mishaps. Why? I don't know. That was like the algorithm that was being pushed to me in December. But those are, sometimes though, if you're in a creative field, a little bit more of an argument you can make, because we're finding inspiration somewhere, or we're finding what people's habits are. Or if you are spending time on TikTok or anything that kind of algorithmically serves you content rather than you having to seek it out, then you're getting a feel for what, content habits may be. That being said, that doesn't mean that you can't reinvent that, or, change people. Sometimes there's value in just, it's like making sure people are comfortable, but jarring that
Yeah.
experience, and trying to kind of cut through the noise. But there are a lot of different tactics. I don't know if is there any specific work where you can point to that you've done recently, or for the back, that just you feel like met the time, met the moment, met the tactic.
Maybe, like, we recently found out that our campaign for Bailey's chocolate
Hmm.
also was nominated for the Shorties,
Yeah.
and we work with an influencer, an amazing creator, an artist, Marie Cuchon, who's making chocolate sculptures, and like
Ooh.
he everything is made of chocolate, and we did this to release a new product, which is Bailey's chocolate. So the collaboration with him, I think, was very successful, because it was exactly the audiences we wanted to reach, and it was exactly as entertaining and different, to get people's attention. And obviously, he was already, like, he has a Netflix show, and he's already somebody who's people interested in. So like it was so many things that was right, and I'm really impressed by the team who made that work. They definitely did the research, and
Yeah.
they went with something that they also felt was entertaining and right for that product and that audience. So I guess that's a good example.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, someone who already has an audience, aligned with the brand, makes sense, but content that will be slightly different. Also, I just want to point out, and this is like a public service announcement, if you're going to make sculptures, make them out of chocolate rather than ice, because generally speaking, they will last longer.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you have to have them
Depends on
cool.
the environment.
It can't be warm like
No,
it
no,
needs.
they're polar opposites, right? Because I'm thinking about they both will melt, but
Yeah,
I'm hoping one melts faster than the other. I've
yeah,
seen like I've always seen like tremendous ice sculptures when I'm
yeah.
traveling, and I'll be like, "This is
Have you
amazing."
been
This
have you been to the Ice Hotel up in Sweden?
no. Tell me
You
all
have to
about it.
go.
Tell me
You
all
have
of the
to
things,
go.
Emma.
It's actually it's quite close to where I was born. I'm from the north of Sweden, and
Hmm.
way up in Sweden, there's a pretty famous hotel that where everything is made of ice.
Love it.
So you can actually stay there. You sleep inside a hotel that is completely sculpted from ice, and everything around the hotel is made of ice, and it's pretty phenomenal. I can
I'm
send you a
so
link
into this.
after, but you should
Yes.
definitely go. It's an
I, f-
experience.
I feel like just at random we're gonna have to put this in the show notes too, just so people can find the Ice Hotel. But this is the best part about being an extrovert that spends a lot of time in their shed talking to people. Is like I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't go anywhere today, but I've learned a ton of things, and now I get to go on a trip, and now we get to find fun stuff.
Yeah.
um, yeah, there's that brings me to a random question that I wasn't going to ask, and now I want to ask is best experience you've ever had as a consumer of content or advertising, or most memorable?
Oh, that's a tough one.
I know. It's
It
like
also,
picking your
it
favorite
also,
song.
yeah. I mean, let me think about it for a while and
I'll let
maybe talk about something else.
we will circle back to that in my final three
There's
questions because
so, I mean, there's so many. So it's almost like it's either
Mhm.
something that hit you really early or it's something
Right.
quite recent, but there's so much in between as well.
Well, that's the
Um,
interesting phenomenon. Like for people who are fans of music, we usually are like so drawn to stuff that happened in our teenage years
yeah,
or something that's recent. Same phenomena, right?
yeah.
I try and equate it
Uh,
to the
yeah,
human brain
it's a
only has
very good
so many
question.
things you
And
can remember, and at some point you
yeah,
reach
it's
your
gonna
limit,
like
and then you either have
I'm
to
gonna
like
give
let
you an
go of
answer.
something to add something new.
I just want to make sure that it's something that I actually still like. What do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
like?
yeah.
What's your favorite?
So I started in experiential. So, and then I moved over to PR, but and mostly just out of the knowledge that like, wait, we're spending 90% of our budget blowing up stuff. We could just spend it getting getting the execution right. But for me, it was always things that appeared out of place that were just that would stop you. But that was always my kind of my style in the beginning was to try and make you see something.
Sorry, I think I lost you.
There's an idea we had a long. Oh, that's fine. Am I still here?
Yeah, but you're a bit
There's a
blurry,
couple
so I'm not
pauses.
sure if maybe I hope it's not my internet connection or
The blurry part, it happens once every 10 times. If you've had a couple times where you've cut a little bit, but I've managed to kind of hear you and cut it in. So,
yeah.
but as long as you can hear me, that's okay. I'll cut this part. But for me, one of the ideas I had a long time ago, 15 years ago, it was just kind of connecting video screens. So if you're walking through one city, you're actually seeing a window into another city. And these things have been done and executed since. But my thought was always just playing around with connectivity. But as far as things I've experienced, I think it's the recent example of Smile, the
Yeah.
movie campaign from last year. I mean, that dominated Shorty 15, and I was there, and it was the idea that you can do something so simple that you do not have to overcomplicate things, but you can take something simple, put it in a place where people won't expect it,
Yeah.
and have an impact with it. And also, I would just the challenge of marketing movies right now. So I think I always give I give a premium to anybody who's doing something that's tougher, because
Yeah.
essentially movie marketing used to be okay, lay out the trailer, do a few things, and now it's very much like if you look at Gentle Minions, it is like, or Barbenheimer, it's sometimes allowing the audience to create what your narrative will be, and then being willing and adaptable to go with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a good one. Like I remember when the campaign came out, it was really inspiring that they just did something that also could show up in real situations as stunts,
Yeah.
and it just got so much PR and attention. It was perfect, and it was actually scary in some way.
Yeah, well, yeah,
It was
because when you're
trippy,
staying in character
so
that long, yeah, for everybody who's not familiar, it's just someone smiling
yeah,
without pause
but in a
for an extended period of time.
very awkward way. So
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was a good one. I
I'm
mean,
impressed. I couldn't
yeah,
stay in character.
I think maybe I have an example for you, but like
I love it.
it's difficult because there's so many things that I like in that space, and especially with music. But I'm gonna pick something that really moved me when it came out. It's an old one, so maybe you don't even like, maybe you haven't even seen it. But
Ooh.
I'm really into artful, visually driven, music driven ideas as well, and many years ago, it was an ad for a Sony TV.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of the product, but it was definitely Sony, and I think it was shot in San Francisco, and it was just like a bunch of colorful, quite small plastic balls that they just released in the city, and then they shot it. So it was just like a beautiful, artful film, and it was set to a song. It's called Heartbeats, and originally it was made by a Swedish band called The Knife, but it was a different Swedish artist who, or at least I think it was. I think it was Jose Gonzalez.
Okay.
I
Because
might be
it's.
wrong, but it's absolutely beautiful and stunning, and I can see if I can find it.
I was honestly double checking in real time that it was the Bravia campaign, but it
Oh,
was.
yes, I
Yeah.
think it is. Yeah, that's the
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Oh
can't
yeah,
really.
that stuck out.
I mean, I think it just has, like, when it comes to what I usually gravitate towards in advertising, it kind of checks all the boxes for me because it's something that is very close to something that I would actually look at and enjoy, even if I don't even think about it as advertising. And I think for me, that's always been a bit of a like side goal, that I want to create something that's closer to art
Yes.
and culture than just an ad. And I think it really works in that way.
Well, that's the ultimate goal, right? If someone
Yeah,
forgets it's an ad, then then that's
that's kind
pretty
of what you want.
powerful. Unless they forget who the client is, and then it's bad. But as long
Then
as
it's
they,
bad.
right, but if they, it's almost like if you get someone to the end result with them
Yeah,
thinking they've gotten there themselves, that part is important.
yeah,
But yes, that's one of the things I always try and think about too. Is I'm like, I do not want to overcomplicate this so much that if you come, your takeaway from the campaign or your takeaway from the content is that was awesome. I forgot who it is.
yeah.
So
No, no, no. That's a big fail. I mean, it needs to be true and relevant. Like
mhm.
it needs to make sense in some way. Like maybe not in the way that you think, because I can really enjoy when things are silly or
Absolutely.
but it needs to feel connected to what you're selling. Otherwise, it's just like putting makeup on a pig, or it's not right. So I definitely agree with that. And I
Emma,
think
go ahead.
no. You
When I close these, I do something called keep it short. There are 3 questions. The questions are short. Your answers can be however long you would like. Are you ready to go?
okay?
Okay, I can hear you. Question 1. Advice you would give to your younger self getting into this career?
Always take notes so you remember exactly what everybody says.
Yeah. 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 You can, when you're younger, you can kind of get away with it. And I've realized as I get older, I'm like, oh no, I have like a million different notes on my phone that sometimes feel unrelated and haphazard, but they make sense to me, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Question 2. What is the biggest what's the biggest opportunity you see going forward for creative, whether that's in timing and pacing, or it's in how you reach people, or in how you surprise them? But what do you feel like? And also, you can say, no, I will not give away this information too. But, generally, what do you see as the opportunity to reach people's attention going forward?
It goes back to solving problems. Like,
Yeah.
if you can manage to solve a problem for people, if you can do something that contributes, that makes them happy, then people are always going to need your help, because that's it sounds easy, but it's actually pretty hard. You have to really dig into it, and understand how people works, and understand how you can do something to make them feel, and also contribute in some way. So the problem solving, everything just comes back to that for me, and then that can be in so many different ways and so many different shapes. But if you understand that you're actually hired to solve a problem, I think that you will always find work, and you're always going to be wanted and needed in some way.
That kind of leads me perfectly into my question 3. And I sometimes I ask the same question. This time I'm not going to, but this is essentially, what is your best advice when having to pitch an idea that you've been hired on, or you're pitching to be hired on, that might be different or antithetical for the brand?
That's a good question. I think that's what we're working on 24/7 to find the best way of doing that. But you need to take them on the journey. You can't just immediately dive in and expect them to understand why they should do something brave and different. You have to take them along and explain why. I think it's just always in the why. Like, why should they do this? Is it because the audience are really interested in this, or is it because it's actually maybe the worst thing that they could say about their product, but it's actually true? And just because they're honest and they're admitting that, people would like them more? Or is it just because it's something that's happening in society at the moment, and if you find a parade and get in front of it, and it makes sense for what you're doing, that can also work as well. But I think you need to take them on the journey and explain that to them. And sometimes it works, other times
Yeah.
it doesn't. But then at least you tried, and I think it's important to try. You shouldn't filter your ideas or shy away from presenting things that feels a little bit uncomfortable and provocative. I think it's actually our job as creatives. We have to do that. And then we can work together with amazing strategists and account people, and together with them and the team, we can make the client feel safe, and also maybe support it with data, or find different ways of making them feel that this would actually help them grow, or help them to reach out and build their brand in a way that makes people like them more and understand them better.
Well, that's the long-term goal, right? I mean, as an agency, you're defined by how you do well for the brand, and same thing for the brand. So thinking long-term, putting them in the best position to be successful puts everyone in the
Yeah.
best position to be
It's all
successful.
about the results. Like, people want
Yeah.
results.
Yeah.
That's the purpose. So
And if you see a clearer path to those, then having the confidence to kind of go in the room and say, okay, these are the steps we'll get to, and this is how we'll get there. But I think that's wonderful. Emma, thank you so much for taking the time, and I will send you pictures when I go to the ice hotel.
okay. Yeah, I,
Thank
I
you.
would love for you to go to the Ice
I
Hotel.
want to.
And
This sounds amazing.
yeah.
This is
Okay.
great.
Thank you so much.